Check. Today on First Cup, we've got a little bit of show and tell. We're going to talk about Groundhog Day. It's another day. We got questions and comments, just all kinds of stuff. So stick around. Going to 15. I got my coffee. Coffee's ready. I should have a towel. It's all this moisture. All this water. Sorry. In 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022. That's right, it's 2222. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. Good morning, Stacy and Ray and Tommy, and all the rest of you watching live or later or listening. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you. Well, how was your Tuesday? Which I kept thinking was Monday. It was blowing my mind because Monday was a weird day because I did most of it in a hotel room. But by the end of the day, I think I'd wrap my head. No, I haven't because it still feels like Tuesday. And it's Wednesday. And I'm probably going to suffer with that all week. Suffer, struggle. It's not really that big of a deal. What did I do? It was a weird day. Like I said, had a meeting. Justin and I got issue 2 of Marshall Journal ordered. It is on the way. You ever do something the first time and just knock it out of the park? And then the second time you're like, oh. In music, that's often called a sophomore slump. That term's probably applied in other industries as well. But where a musician will have an incredible first album and then their second album, because it has all of these expectations and everybody's helping, it's not quite the same. Well, in this case, it's not that there were expectations or anything. It's just that between Justin and I, we had so many other things that came up, and we said from the beginning, quality over speed. But it's ordered. It'll come in. I'll get those envelopes stuffed. Hopefully you're all getting it. Hopefully you're on the list. If you're not on the list, man, I don't know what you're doing. Ooh, look at all these people popping through. I got more people to say hi to. Good morning, Nathan and Daniel and Jenny and Dennis and Mark. Yeah, I was gonna talk about that. Ray has a good memory. He's asking, how did Operation Move Tub Without Falling Down go? Good morning, Brian. So I left the house after the meeting, drove over, met up my friend. For those of you who didn't watch or listen yesterday, I've got a plumber friend who needed help moving a clawfoot tub. If you've ever moved a clawfoot tub, I'm sorry. I knew going in, these things are a monstrosity. They're so heavy, and there's no good way to lift them. And he had it up on a couple dollies, and fortunately we didn't have to change floors, but we're moving around. And there was a point where we had to scoot it along the dolly. It had to, you know what I'm talking about? Like the dolly's here, the tub's on top, and the tub had to move this way on the dolly. Not the whole thing, but it's too heavy to just kind of like kick it. So fortunately I had a whole bunch of heavy rope in the car and went and did a few loops around and braced it with my foot and was able to get it moved over the half an inch that it needed to go. But holy cow, it was brutal. It was a very heavy tub. All in all, I think it took 15 minutes. I spent way longer driving one direction, let alone round trip, than it did to actually move the tub. But that's okay, because now he owes me. And now he's going to finish fixing the shower. Daniel says, hopefully I'm on the list, although I'm a pain to ship to. Between us, we don't have a whole lot of people coming in for overseas. So, I'll do a couple. But there's a big difference between shipping one out domestically for 55 cents. And I think the cheapest we were able to do last time, because there was somebody who asked, that has been around a long time. And I said, yeah, I can send you this. I think it cost me $12. It's a big difference. So obviously the economics don't work, to do one or two here and there. I don't mind that, especially to people who are very supportive. What else happened yesterday? Went to the gym. Oh, I wanted to show you. I haven't taken these out of the bag yet. So I went and I got what are theoretically my permanent kind of Invisalign. They make those. Apparently, they make those at the office. But they made molds of my teeth, and then they cast the new aligners off these molds. These are my teeth, you guys. This is what my teeth look like. And what blows my mind is they have this. That's the bottoms. See, that's what they look like now. If any of you knew me and really spent time with me before and remember how crooked my teeth were, like, this is mind-blowing. I don't think we have too many photos of me smiling because I have overbite, right? So you're not going to see much in the way of that in photos. But anyway, it continues to blow me away that at the orthodontist office, they have this scanner that they put in your mouth and they create a 3D image and you can watch it. Unfortunately, they put it over here. So I'm trying to watch it while it's going, because as the model's being built on the screen, there are all these gaps. You can see the gaps in the image. And I just think it's super cool. And then from that, they 3D printed this in the office. And then they cast the aligners, which are super tight and kind of uncomfortable. But they will loosen up and my teeth will move a little bit more. But I'm done. I have to wear these things for 3 months minimum, pretty much all the time, except when I'm eating, like the others. But then apparently after that, I can start reducing how often I wear them. And they say ultimately I can get to a point where I only have to wear them a couple nights a week. I'm probably going to keep wearing them every night. Why? Habit. Building a habit. Habits are important. Ooh, look at all this. You guys are so talkative this morning. This is crazy. Wow. You guys are all nice. You know what? Here's what I would rather. So here's what's going on for those of you who are not in the chat. Stacy is summarizing here. So let's all send Jeremy money for our overseas friends. A couple bucks here and there is not a big deal to me. One of the things that I believe strongly in, and I heard this, I think this might be a Gary Vee thing, but I'm not 100% sure. And it was some advice that I got 10 years ago. And I really believe it. Do things that don't necessarily scale. I can't send every martial artist in the UK and Australia a copy of Martial Journal. But I can send the couple who have asked. It's not a big deal, right? It's not like I run everything with this compartmentalized budget where, you know what, we only have this much money for this thing, and if we go over by 7 cents, I won't do it, right? Like, it doesn't work that way. I have found that in doing things that don't scale, ultimately it creates other opportunities and doors open. For those of you who are willing to throw money in, I will refer you to the Patreon. That is the best thing to do, please. If you are not already a Patreon contributor, a few bucks here and there does add up. Why? Because when other people go on and they see that the Patreon numbers, because we leave all that public, the number of people, and I believe it also shows the number of dollars that we take in per month on Patreon. I'm more than willing to be public on that. As that continues to go up, and I would imagine some people are kind of checking it out a few times before they commit. They see it keeps going up and it doesn't go down. What does that say? It says that we're doing something right. And I would assume it makes them more likely to want to participate. I posted something on Whistlekick Family yesterday. You might want to check it out. It had to do with this past weekend. I was going to make a text update on Patreon, but I didn't have time. Because what else did I do? So I did the teeth thing. Dealt with some estate stuff. I had to go to FedEx and overnight things. Got a cup of coffee. You ever go to Starbucks and accidentally order something that is a cold drink when you meant to order a hot drink because you don't go to Starbucks that often? I did that. And so I had a frozen drink in the frozen tundra. of Vermont. It's okay. It was still tasty. Daniel says, speaking of Patreon, I got an email this morning. I'm getting some stuff sent. Yep. I'm familiar with a number of companies that use Patreon specifically for podcasts, and they do rewards. Most of them do not do physical rewards. They do discounts, they do other things, and we do some of that stuff too. But I love that even in the $5 tier, you get some free merch. And I guess we can't really call it free because you do pay to get it. But in my mind, it's free because when we started Patreon, we had plenty of people signing on and we didn't give out the stuff. When they rolled that feature out to make it easy to give away things, I said, let's do that. And I see the difference. It costs us money. It costs us money that, I'll be honest, I don't think it changes anything. I don't think it means any of you stick around longer, but it seems like the right thing to do. Hey, you've been throwing in money every month. We'll send you a sticker, right? Like the low end thing, like it doesn't cost us that much per person. And I figure what's the chance you're going to take that sticker and you're going to throw it away? Probably pretty slim. You're going to put it somewhere and it's going to remind you of whistlekick. And maybe somebody else sees the sticker. I don't know. I figure it's a good long-term thing. It's not a short-term thing. Good morning, Linda. And Daniel says, agrees, it's free. You get the money for support, not for stuff. Yeah. I like Patreon. I think it's a cool platform. I had meant to do a bunch of video while driving back and forth to Atlantic City. But the intersection of me being alert enough that I felt like it was safe, the roads being in good shape, not being in traffic that I was swearing at everyone, did not occur. Driving, no. Although I don't think I can't call him a friend. There is someone I know who hosts a podcast, and he launched his podcast in 2008, driving in a car. And if you listen to old episodes, I think it's the first 50 or 100 episodes were in the car, maybe more. And he'll just go on tangents where he's yelling at other drivers. It was very, very authentic, we will say. What's going on today? I got to do the books. I got a client call. I think there's something else. Why do I feel like I have a meeting or something tonight? Oh, yeah. I'm going to try to do that. I'm not even going to say what it is yet because I can't be sure it's going to happen. But I'm going to try. Bunch of stuff going on around here. It's all little stuff, client work, picking up piles from the weekend. There's a pile, 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 there's a pile. Piles. Any of you pile people? Do you pile things up? Daniel says, I'd up my Patreon sub for a swearing traffic video. Okay. I don't know where I would drive to get that kind of inspiration because it's not around here. Where was I going? Was it yesterday? No, it was when I was in Maine. I was driving in Maine Monday from the hotel to where I needed to go, and definitely had to hang out behind a tractor for a while because it wasn't safe to pass. It was a big tractor. It was almost a combine. Those of you who know the difference. Stacy said, is suggesting to Daniel, Boston drivers. Oh, yeah. Ray says Shelburne Road during rush hour could work for that. It absolutely could. I am not a fan there. And Dennis says, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey. We got you. Massachusetts has the worst drivers. The worst drivers. The worst drivers. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. All right. You guys left me a bunch of stuff to talk about today. So I got stuff here from Dennis. Pardon me. And Frank, I'm going to start with Frank's thing here. Frank says, today is Lung Leavin Day, according to daysoftheyear.com. What would you do when faced with the terrifying reality of certain death if you didn't act now? Add to that a young husband and infant baby as well. What of them? What of their futures? This heart-rending fear and reality is what Lung Leavin Day is all about. Ooh, sounds like it's going to be a tearjerker. All right, we're going to read this. Hang on. Lung Leavin Day was created in 2005 when Heather Von St. James was faced with the diagnosis of malignant pleural mesothelioma. Her world stood still in that moment when she was told, as she has stated, that all she could think about was her 3-month-old daughter and her husband of just 6 years. Fear could have frozen her in that moment, but her determination was soon to become apparent. Faced with the reality that if she did nothing, she would only have 15 months to live, or she could try a new radical procedure, she chose to act. She endured a procedure that removed her left lung, pericardium, diaphragm, and pleura. It took months for her to recover from this procedure with help and support from her family and friends. Heather Von St. James and her family began the tradition of writing their worries and fears on a plate and then smashing them to show that they have power over their fears. Don't you agree that doing this is empowering? Heather and her family have been celebrating this day for 11 years. A far cry from the 15 months she was given at first. And there's a bit more you can read on the Facebook page. Whoo! It's interesting what people will do when they have to. If you're confronted with a situation where you have to make a change, for example, I've got a friend who was told if he didn't stop drinking, he would be dead by 40. This was in his mid to late 20s. He stopped instantly. But how many people would look at alcohol and say, it's fine, it's fine. Even if you could show them statistics that said, like later in life, you're going to be comfortable, it stacks up. You could say that about cigarettes. You could say that about a lot of habits. You could also say that the opposite about positive habits. If you do this thing or that thing, you'll live an average of 5 years longer, whatever. We don't respond well to that. But we do respond well to abrupt change for dramatic and immediate consequences. It's just how we're wired. We prioritize the now. Stacy says, we'll admit to writing things and names on boards before breaking, sometimes even in yellow highlighter so no one else can see. I like that. I think that's a wonderful idea. There are a lot of traditions that are similar to this. I like the idea of writing it on a plate, though, because breaking a plate, that sound, right? You ever probably been in a restaurant where a server's dropped a plate or a busboy's dropped a plate? Smash. And most of the restaurant looks, because it's such a dramatic noise that we hear so infrequently, that there's an emotional response. Use that to your advantage. Write your fears, write your whatever on that plate. Go to a cheap thrift store and grab plates and glassware. Doesn't have to cost much. In fact, you can probably get old plates for cheaper than you can get boards. There are plenty of places I've seen sell plates for $0.25 or 50 cents. Oh, and I went to Costco yesterday because I could and I wanted to. I love Costco. Today is also Groundhog Day. If the rodent predicts another 6 weeks of winter, to what internal temperature does one cook groundhog? Asks Dennis. I'm gonna guess groundhog would be at least. Well, it's wild. You generally want to cook wild game a little bit hotter. I'd say you're looking at least 165. If anybody knows more about cooking of meat because, the more or less vegetarian over here. When I cook turkey, it's to 165. I aim for 170. That's the generally accepted safe spot. Yeah, if anybody has a more specific number or opinion, let me know. Jenny loves the idea. Yellow highlighter. Yes, I'm so doing this. Oh, interesting. Daniel says, breaking a glass in the pub usually results in the whole place cheering in the UK. And Stacy's defending her use of boards. True, but boards then warm me up in bonfires. Can't argue that. Can't argue that at all. I don't know, regardless of what the groundhog sees, because the groundhog's accuracy meteorologically is rather poor. I used to date someone who's from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, where the groundhog, the official Punxsutawney Phil, lives. And she told stories, and I don't remember much of the details other than the men got dressed up ridiculously with like top hats and coat and tails and canes, and everyone was drunk all day. That's all I remember her saying about it. Apparently it's a big deal. Can you imagine living somewhere where your town is known for this? Like that's what you wouldn't be able to escape it. Where are you from? Pennsylvania. Where? Punxsutawney. Oh, the groundhog. Yeah. For the rest of your life. Can you imagine being like the mayor or something? Daniel says, and I think this tells us a lot about Daniel. Plenty of advice on cooking squirrel. I'd probably be tempted to cook groundhog similarly. But he follows that up with, you dated someone from where? Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, where the groundhog is. Hey. I don't know what. She lived here. It's not like I was driving to Pennsylvania. Oh. Tommy says, Bill Murray did it well. And Jenny's spelling it. Punxsutawney. Yep. We some of the towns we got going on in the U.S. are spelled funny. Some of them are they're kind of strange. Actually, I was noticing in driving to Atlantic City last week that the number of native-inspired names in states that you would think of as being the least rural is kind of neat. Like the number of native-inspired names in New Jersey, when New Jersey is really built up, right? And even in areas around New York City, there are strange names, but that's cool. Oh, excuse me. All right. Whether or not we have 6 more weeks of winter, or we don't. I'm always a fan of winter ending early. None of you live more north than I do. Well, that's not true. Stacy does. But none of you live dramatically more north. Hey, it is what it is. We live where we live. We could move if we want. We choose not to. All right. And then Dennis has a broad but solid question, and I'd like everyone to chime in on this. How has martial arts training impacted your everyday life? Not how has it impacted your life? How has it impacted your everyday life? I would say that all the things that it's done for me fall into probably one of 2 categories: remaining prepared and safe, and being resilient. For example, here's a small one. I don't put one shoe on and then tie that shoe and then put on the other shoe. I put on a shoe, then I put on the other shoe, and then I tie one, then I tie the other. Why? Because what if something happens? What if something happens while I've got one shoe on and not the other? I can run with untied shoes. I'm not going to run very well with one shoe and one barefoot. I try not to put my back to doors. I carry things in my pocket that I can use as weapons. But on the other side, the resilience part, I'm constantly reminding myself, hey, you can do this. If you can do that, you can do this. If you can get through that, you can get through this. Remember that time you faced that really difficult thing? Remember your black belt test? Remember this, that, or the other? You made it through that. This is easy. This is just 10 minutes. This is one phone call. This is whatever it is. And I refer back to that. That's a 0 point that I can fall back on and say, this is something you can do. Those are the two big places that I think it impacts me, but I would love to hear more from you. Oh, we're into names and locations. Tommy says, Connecticut means Long River in Algonquin. So when you say Connecticut River, you were saying Long River. Kind of like when I was in college, what I believe is now the DCU Center, the amphitheater in Worcester, Mass, was called the Worcester Centrum Center. Even if you don't know Latin, you can figure out that that's redundant. We just called it the Centrum. The Worcester Center. Ray says, martial arts helps me with my confidence. I was never very athletic or coordinated and was picked on a lot as a kid, but now I know I can do whatever I put my mind to. We're in the same boat. Some resilience there, right? Life isn't easy. Life is challenging. Life can be simple if we want it to be, but even if it's simple, it's not easy. There's a lot going on, and we don't have control over the vast majority of it. I control most of what happens within my four walls. That's it. I step out. Nope. I don't have any control over what my neighbors do. I don't have control over the weather, the animals. I don't have control over whether or not you show up. Anybody else want to chime in? Love to hear from more of you. Stacy says, totally has helped me find my tribe. Gives me strength even when not training because I can think of my family. Yeah. When I think about what we set out to do with whistlekick, it was never just about sparring gear. It was about what I was out pitching businesses and what on a technical level I still refer to as a lifestyle brand. Martial arts is a lifestyle. Martial arts is more of a lifestyle than any other hobby or pursuit or sport or anything that I am aware of. People will say, oh, well, I play soccer, I play basketball, I do, one of these things. Okay. Show me where those things are as dramatic in the complete shift of someone's life just a few hours a week. It doesn't happen. And so as we lean into that, as we do more things that kind of bring people together and foster that lifestyle, I'm hoping it provides more reference points for all of us to face life. It's a big part of what All In Weekend is going to be. Creating reference points. Oh, we did that one. Take care, Daniel. Daniel's got to run. I'm going to go too. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you leave me some stuff to talk about for tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday, even though it doesn't feel like it in my brain. We'll have another episode, and we can talk about it. We can talk about everything. Take care. Thanks for coming by. Remember, if you want to support us and what we do, you've got a few options. You can join the Patreon. We talked about that. I can't click on buttons today. You can join the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. You can use the code FIRSTCUP15 to get yourself something like this limited edition First Cup mug. Still available, not for much longer, at whistlekick.com. You can also go to whistlekick.com/family and check out the new thing that I threw up there, which also has the list of all the things you can do to support and engage with Whistlekick. Comments and questions, go to facebook.com/firstcupwithjeremy. If you don't do Facebook, email me, jeremy@whistlekick.com. Seriously, why am I not able to click on anything today? Oh, let's go there. My brain's a little fuzzy. And Jenny's got a great comment to end on. It's a comfort zone. Even when there's chaos in other areas of my life, I can train. This is my journey, and it's always there for me. Beautifully said. Thanks, Jenny. And thank you to all of you. I appreciate you coming by. I hope to see you back here tomorrow. We'll do it again, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Take care. Be well. Peace.